Good evening, everybody. We would like to thank you for coming out tonight to attend our meeting. It's basically going to be an informational meeting this evening, so we do have people here representing our committee for the athletic complex, and we also have two members here from Mott MacDonald who are part of the engineering firm who have done all of the background on the athletic complex. Moving forward, what we're going to do is just a brief little agenda that we do have. We're going to have Chip Harrington's going to do a little introduction, Tony Gonzalez as well, and then Tim Brillo is going to follow up with some information from the school side. The only thing that we do ask afterwards, when you're doing your questions, we're happy to come around with the microphone for anybody who has questions, and we just ask that everybody be respectful. And for the presenters here this evening as well, we just ask that you not call out, no interruptions. And for those that do have questions, we just want to make sure that everybody's voice is heard tonight. So if you can just be cautionary in shouting out in any way so that everybody's questions can be asked and answered. And with that, I will turn it over to Tony Gonzalez.
Maybe we should start with the Pledge of Allegiance, as is normal, if everybody would stand up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So thank you all for coming out. The idea behind getting everybody together here was because there was a lot of stuff flying around everywhere. People weren't really sure why what was happening. How this all came about, and a lot of the procedural things that even we were learning along the way of the do's and don'ts and how this had to be proposed to the town. So Chip will get into the timeline a little bit, but just understand that whatever we did was completely within the guidelines that our town council and what the rules of the state are as far as being able to put this on the ballot. And what we do, if it is approved afterwards, we're pretty much ready to go. And again, with the timeline, we'll let you know that if the town so decides, and our positions were to inform you people, not to be in favor or against, but simply to gather as much information as possible and inform everybody. But given if the project gets a green light, then we'll be able to go. We can answer that. The engineers are here. They can give you an idea if there's any questions or uncertainties. So with that, for now, I'll turn it over to Chip Harrington.
Thank you very much, Tony. And thank you all for coming. I think it's very important that you're here and you're willing to listen to the presentation that we have and make an informed decision, regardless of what that might be. So thank you very much for coming. The committee that we have put together, I'll introduce you. Tony Gonzalez, you met. Chip Harrington from the school committee. Tony's representing the Board of Selectmen. Tim Brillo, our athletic director, right here. Brian Walsh is on the committee. Brian. Next to Brian, Tom Fournier, community member. Tony Salvador is not here, I believe. He's here at the moment. Kim Collins, our town accountant. John Davis from the Board of Public Works was appointed to the committee. Has not been able to attend some of the meetings, and then Pat Gregoire, you met her. So that's the committee that was formed. I'm going to go through the timeline. I think the timeline is very important. I think there's a perception out there that, we woke up 2 months ago and said, let's build a new track for $2 million. We've actually been together since last September. August actually was when we first started getting this process started. So how we got here. The track itself, as far as how we got here, back there, and then we'll talk about this committee, how this committee got formed. So if you all recall, most of you I'm sure will, this building in Baird Middle School went under a big renovation back in the late 1990s. So in 2000, 2001, that was completed, and the stadium system, we really should stop calling it just a track, because it's a whole stadium, was completed at that time during those renovations. In 2008, the school department notified the Capital Improvement Committee that a new rubberized coating was due for the track. Around this time, if you recall, the economy got very difficult. So the Capital Improvement Committee basically was not able to come up with any funds at that time. The track was still in very good shape. That was really more the school department notifying capital improvement that this is something that is going to need to be done in the next few years. When the track was first initially built, there's a rubberized coating that goes over the asphalt. And at that time, it was told this will last between 7 to 10 years in New England. You know, we got hot weather, we got cold weather, so that does affect it. So we went there 7 years after it was installed to give them a heads up that it's going to need to be done. But it was still in very good shape at that time. In 2014, the school department went back to capital and asked for funds. And at that time, they approved funds for some jumping pits, which includes the long jump, triple jump, and the pole vault area. And it was also discussed at that time that the track, the rubberized track, is going to need to be redone at some point. But the funds were not available, so it did not get done. Around 2015, the Fit Improvement Team, not necessarily this committee, but Tim Brillo put together another committee because he realized that funding was going to be difficult, so he wanted to start doing some private fundraising to see if he can generate some funds to start putting something into the track back there. At that time, the FIT is the Facilities Improvement Team, made a presentation to the Board of Selectmen about the conditions of the track, and Tim could get into more detail about that. So that was around 2015 that presentation was made. In 2017, the school department also notified capital improvement that the funding to resurface the track was needed. At this point, we were starting to see a lot of wear and tear on the track. Because again, in 2001 when it was built, it was a 7 to 10 year lifespan for the coating of the track. So it was really starting to show a lot of wear at that time, but still usable. The officials hadn't shut it down at that point. In 2018, the officials did come in and they looked at the conditions, and that's when they finally, I think it was in April of that year, they finally shut the track portion down. So the football field, the baseball field, the soccer field, which is part of the football field, still usable, but the track itself was deemed unsafe by the officials from the state. So that's how we got to where we are back there. How we got to here, tonight, this meeting here. In August of 2019, August 13th last year, there was a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen and the school committee to discuss a possible town meeting warrant to appropriate some funds for the track and field replacement. It was decided that a committee would be formed to develop a plan for a new stadium and talk about fundraising. FIT made a presentation to the board. The selectmen, FIT meaning us, made a presentation to the board about the conditions of the track, and the school committee made that presentation. September of 2019, a board of selectmen appointed this committee, and we went over who's on this committee. So you see that there. In September 2019, we started meeting. So we started meeting September of last year. This committee started meeting, going over proposals at that point, or going over ideas on how we can move forward. In September, we started having discussions with the engineering firm. In October, we signed a contract and hired Mott McDonald and started developing a plan. So the engineers started attending our meetings. They went back to the site, they dug boring holes. I think the next slide talks about that. In October, November, they took soil samples, boring holes, went back there to kind of see what the conditions were. Now, those of us who grew up in town and played back there for different sports, that was always kind of a wet area. So our biggest concern was this is going to be really difficult to kind of rebuild this thing because we assumed that the water table was so high. That turned out not to be true according to what the boring holes showed. So from that point, November to where we are today, or at least in February, we met on a pretty regular basis, and Mott McDonald came up with 4 designs for us to review, and different variations. The length of the track, the width of the track, doesn't include redoing the seating, doesn't include lights. This is the track, a turf field, and the reason we're talking about a turf field versus a grass field is because of maintenance. There is much less maintenance on a turf field going forward than it would be on a grass field. A grass field needs to be mowed, it needs to be lined. There's a higher cost that goes with that, and the engineers will get into the details about that. In February 2020 this year, we took a vote and picked a plan. And we can get it, we're going to be showing the details of that plan once we go forward. A lot of this has been shared through our website that Pat has been maintaining and through social media. So hopefully many of you have already seen that. On February 4th, the Board of Selectmen did vote to place this issue on the ballot. This is if this does go forward, it would have to be a debt exclusion. Just like the new school and the senior center, the town can only borrow a certain amount of money for this specific project. And the only way you can do that is to go to a town meeting vote. And then a town-wide vote, and then town meeting needs to ratify the vote with a number attached to it. So that's how we got where we are with the track, and that's how this committee was formed. So a lot of work has been done behind the scenes already. Hasn't been we haven't spread it all over the news. It hasn't been widely covered, but there has been work that has been done. So it hasn't been something that has just kind of popped up out of nowhere. At least this committee, the track, we have tried to make attempts over the years to get funding to replace it, but due to economic conditions, it just wasn't possible oftentimes. So that's all the only portion I have. I'm going to turn it over to Tim Brillo to go into some of the details on the track, and then we'll start talking about questions from the engineer.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. This is a great crowd. It shows that this is an important issue to all of us, that it's important to our community. And let me say, this is my 26th year here in Ludlow High School. My 11th year, or 11 and a half, however you want to look at it, as the director of athletics. And let me say this, when I moved into town, that is when the renovations were happening, the first round of renovations. And that was one of the big major decisions for myself and my wife to move into this community, because this community made a commitment to the kids and their education here in Ludlow. And I think that's important. And looking back now, when we redid our facility and our schools, we were the best in Western Mass. And now it's come full circle. All these other schools, these surrounding towns, have put in new facilities, they built new schools, and when we go and visit them, they're all turf. They're fantastic facilities that our kids are playing on. And you know, they always say you got to keep up with the Joneses, and that's kind of where we are right now. So we're talking about the last slide. We talked a little bit about bringing back the roar. There was a lot of pride in our facility. There was a lot of pride in our athletic department. So we want to help bring that back a little bit. Just a little bit of history, and I know Chip has already spoken on this a little bit, but you can see the timeline there. And then there was some recommended upgrades that we went out currently in our facility, and you can see the track needs to be resurfaced. The soccer football field becomes unplayable because of drainage. We do not let teams practice on it just because of the wear and tear. Looking at the different stuff, press box needs to be upgraded. We wanted to upgrade or relocate the baseball field. Stadium lighting, right now everybody's going LED, we're still in bulbs. Scoreboards are outdated, the concession stand needs to be remodeled. But we looked at all of that and we're saying, there's no way. We know it needs to be done, but what we ended up settling on is just these basic proposed upgrades. And that's to install a brand new state-of-the-art turf, track with a 400-meter track with a 100-meter runway. We want to replace that soccer football field. You can see the dimensions there. We're going to maintain the current location of the baseball field. We talked about relocating it, but no matter where we put it, we ran into problems in terms of foul balls, or it didn't really make much sense. We said, let's keep it and let's make some upgrades down the right field line. We're going to try to avoid getting baseballs blown into the creek there, putting some safety netting up along the left field side so that a foul ball is not going into our concession stand, raising the height of the backstop. And it becomes it's a good field to play on. We know that we've lost the baseball fields down at Chapin Street. So right now there are only 2 90-foot diamonds in the town of Ludlow. So that's our proposed changes. This is kind of what it would look like out back. You'll you'll have the turf there. Biggest thing we've done is we've taken our long jump and triple jump runways and we brought them into the stadium. Beforehand, they were down on the bottom left-hand corner. They're currently in right field of the baseball field, close to the wetlands. So the runways were constantly sinking. So we've moved those into the stadium. So that's the proposed what we have. So there's not a lot of change in the baseball area. The major changes is the track and the turf area. These are just some photographs of, and we've shown these a little bit before. This is what our track looks like right now. This is why we don't have events to run on. So this is, why there's a new track. And I don't have to go through and read them all for you, but biggest thing is we cannot host or practice on our track. Our kids are traveling for away meets all the time. They have no home field. With baseball, we can send our kids to Whitney Park. With soccer, we can send our kids to Whitney. We can use Lusitano Stadium. With football, again, we could go to Whitney Park, but they lose their home facility right here. Our track kids are out right now, running around in the parking lot. It's right back to where it was when I got hired here 26 years ago. There was no track. They were practicing on the bus loop for handoffs, and the first time they ever run a full flight of hurdles was when they actually get to a track meet. So it's pretty difficult for us. But you can see here, we can no longer hold track meets. Our kids are on the road for the past 2 years. And it's costing us, because we have to bus them to all these track meets, it's costing us money as well. Track maintenance, this is always a big thing. What happened? How did we get to this spot? And let's make sure it doesn't happen again, and I completely agree. A track is typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, about 10 years. So basic maintenance, and the recommendation would be that we'd have a member of our maintenance staff here at Ludlow High School would go out and just keep the debris off the track. Leaf blower, keep the leaves off, blow off the debris. Professional maintenance, as you can see, biannually washing is recommended, and any repairs should be done by a professional. We're looking at repainting the lines in numbers 6 to 7 years. I just spoke with Minichog athletic director. They have a brand new track. Well, 6 years ago, they just repainted their lines after 6 years of use on their facility. And then to resurface it would be anywhere between 10 and 15 years down the line. Again, based on the number of hours that we were able to use it. And looking at just down the bottom, and we'll get to this again a little bit later, in talking about maintenance and making sure that we're putting money aside, as part of the annual Ludlow Public Schools budget, a minimum of $10,000 per year would be put aside strictly to make sure that we can do the repairs that need to be made and to renovate down the line, so that we're not having this type of discussion another 10 years from now. So turf, and why turf? Again, you can read through it, but probably the biggest piece, there's no downtime. We're canceling games. I'm watching the radar. I've become a weatherman as well as an AD, and I'm watching the weather coming in. If we get any type of rain, we're keeping our kids off the field because it just destroys it. And if you've seen a football game on a Friday night when it rains, it absolutely just tears the field apart, and it is ruined for the remainder of the year. And if we get one early in the season, we're in trouble. The DPW has done they communicate with me a lot. They've done a pretty good job. They'll come out and roll it for us and whatnot, but there's times where we've had to cancel and move games because our facility was in such poor shape. And again, right now, a lot of our athletes are practicing off-site. We've got a group, they've been doing it for years, where they go to Whitney Park. By adding a turf field to the back, we can now bring more kids back onto our campus. We can keep them centrally located. We'd be able to practice on the turf field. We'd be able to allow more community members in terms of our youth organizations to come back and now utilize that field as well. So, and probably the biggest thing that everybody talks about is lower maintenance cost. And I'll show you the numbers on that in a moment, but it's huge. There's a big difference. So here's your turf maintenance. On the on the left-hand side is a recommendation. We have two options. We can go on the left-hand side, which is we can get the AstroTurf maintenance package. There's a package called the Rhino maintenance package with a particular company that I was speaking with. They would come out one day, and you can see the cost would be $3,600 per year, where they would come out, they groom it, they decompact it, disinfect it, they remove the debris, they'll do any type of normal repairs that would happen with it, and all work would be done by a professional maintenance company. On the right-hand side, if we decided to just do it on our own, we would have to purchase the grooming equipment, which is estimated at about $6,000. We would now have to hire somebody to make sure, probably within our maintenance, train them how to use the grooming equipment. They would now have to use it, and again, to groom the field would be based on the number of hours you used. In speaking with Minichog, they just put their new turf in. They did it once during the fall, which wasn't too bad. But again, the work would be done by the Ludlow Public Schools maintenance staff. Again, $10,000 per year would be earmarked towards the maintenance and repairs. And we also made the recommendation, one of the biggest things with the turf in our facilities is we can now rent our facility out. I've asked that if we rent out our facility to, say, a club soccer team that wanted to come out, that money would be put into an account strictly for facility upgrades and maintenance. So it would go right back into it, whereas now a lot of the times what's happening is when you rent it out, it goes back into the general fund. And this is why we get here when we ask for a repair, if something else takes precedence, that's where the money is going all over. This would be strictly, goes right back into athletics, into the maintenance, would be earmarked for maintenance just on the turf, okay? Just a cost analysis of what it would cost per year, or per usage is what I should say. If you look at the left-hand side is currently on a good estimate of what we're paying. That's what the grass field. You'll notice down the bottom what we have here is 137 total hours of usage. So what I did is I looked at how much use we're getting out of our grass field. We're only getting, in a year, we're getting 137 hours because we just can't be on it. We just tear it apart. So it's costing us $7,350 divided by 137 hours. It's $53.60 hours of use. If you put in an AstroTurf field, again, maintenance plan, labor, equipment, there's a GMAX testing, what they talk about with concussions. They'll come out and test to make sure that we have the right shock, pad and what we have on our turf. I estimated that we could get our hours from 137 up to 1,000 total hours. We're putting more people on our field, it's being used more, and it's going to cost us $5 hours of usage. So you can see there's a significant savings and as well as hours of usage if we went to turf. In terms of when we talk about, again, using turf, and we just mentioned about allowing the community to use it, here are the current, and I'm sure that there's more, hopefully I didn't leave anybody off, but right now, the whole community uses our track and our baseball field, as well as our athletic field. But you take a look, Ludlow Community Center, Randall Boys and Girls Club has their track and field program, their cross-country programs. We've got youth camps, our Youth Soccer Association, football, Youth Football Association, Youth Baseball contacts me. We have an adult baseball league that uses in the back. The track is always open to the public. Our phys ed classes, Ludlow Cares, Walk to Remember, Relay for Life, Sheriff Department will come out and do their testing on our track all the time. It's a great facility. It's a community facility. And I know we're always sitting here just talking about how does it benefit our Ludlow High School athletes, but it benefits the entire community on this. So I think that's a big advantage, and especially going to turf, we can see a lot more use out of it. A little bit about funding, and this is the breakdown, and if you guys wanted to add to this, I don't know if Dave or John, if you want to talk about this a little bit, but here's basically the cost breakdown. We can see site demolition, everything that we've talked with Mont McDonald about what the cost is going to be. It's itemized out for us based on what we decide if we wanted to put this facility together. Did you have any comments on it, or? Hi, this is John Sobel. He's from Mont McDonald.
All right, so as you can see, the cost is broken down. Typically, the synthetic turf field costs $8 a square foot, but that includes install, so that's the sub base, the drainage, and the turf and the infill. And then you can see on there we broke the track down a bit more. We included what the base costs, what the asphalt costs for that, and then also the rubberized surface. And typically on both these systems, you're going to get roughly about 10 years of use before you're going to need to think about replacing them. So the cost won't be as high once you replace it, because on the synthetic turf field, you're not putting in a new base, you're not putting in the drainage. All you're replacing is the carpet and the infill. So the cost would be about half, maybe a little less than half of what the field costs to put in initially. And then with the track surface, as long as the bases are put in correctly, which we would guarantee that the contractor puts the base in correctly, then all you're going to replace is the rubberized surface on top, and that would only be $6 a square foot. And that would be after 10 years to 15 years that you would have to do that.
Thank you, John.
So just in terms of funding and cost, you can see the bottom line number that's there that we've estimated. And what we've received already, we have $100,000 of state funds that were issued to us, $75,000 from the town. We have a commitment of $50,000 from the Anadias Foundation. And in the future, looking at what we have, and one of the biggest things, we've been in touch with a number of local companies, local individuals that are interested in making donations to the project. We currently have on our webpage where you can make a donation to the project as well to help offset the cost. Biggest thing that a lot of the major donors have all asked is, we want to make sure that this is going to go through before we commit some money. That's been the biggest thing, or what is the town's commitment to this project? If I'm going to write you a big check, I need to know that the town is committed to it. So I think, like you said, there are some people out there that want to make the donations. We have a packet that we've put out, and yes, we've asked for some big numbers, and these are negotiable. But we have, some naming right opportunities that people would have, a lot of chances to advertise, all the way down to, hey, you want to make a donation for $100, we'll put your name on a brick and we'll have it in our walkway out back. So there are opportunities to get the cost of the project down, and hopefully that will go through as well. But again, I think the big thing that we're hearing is, what is the community and the town's commitment to this project before I cut you that check. Just the tax impact, because I know that that's the huge issue. I'm going to turn that over to Tony so that he can explain it to you.
Thank you. So just going back to what Tim was talking about, we do have other corporations in the area that have committed to write checks. The problem is this: if the town's not committed, it doesn't go through, and if XYZ company says, I'd love to give you $25,000, for some reason this doesn't go through, where they may not have wanted to make that donation available to other communities, they could possibly look bad saying, well, you were gonna give it to Ludlow, Ludlow's not doing their project, so you've got that $25,000, why can't we have it? You've already committed. So we're in a funny place there. In addition to what you see back here, the Anadias Foundation, Lusitania Institute, the Lions Den Athletic Association last week also committed to the $10,000 pledge to us. So the money's starting to come together. From a tax impact, you folks saw this online, I'm sure, a million times. And I don't know if I probably can't get in there, but if you look down at the yellow part on the right there, in the bottom of the yellow, what's happening is the Baird Middle School, High School, Senior Center, and the Harrisbrook, the New Chapin Street School, is having an impact on our taxes of $236 per year on the average house, which is $235,000, I believe, assessed value. Our project would be $25 or less annually on an average home. So yes, if your home's assessed at $350, you may be looking at $34 or $35. And that's calculated out at more money than where we believe right now this project is going to come in. For instance, the calculations that you've seen, and again, you've probably seen this, I wish we had this slide, but it looks like this and it's online. And this is calling for borrowing of $1.845 million. We know that right now, with the project estimate, the last project estimate we got, and by the way, that project estimate has come down substantially since the beginning. We're at 2.2 when we started this. But as a result of the soil testing and other things that we're finding that are favorable, that number keeps reducing, and we're hopeful it's even going to reduce more. But there are contingencies in there, and we're comfortable at that number or less. But again, going back, and what you'll see online is that $1.845 million borrowing, that'll create the $25, $26 a year. We know that right now with the donations that we've already gotten in, the pledges that we have, we're going to be borrowing about 1.74, which is a little bit more than $100,000 less than what that number calculates out to on the average home. And that's without any of the other money coming in, that we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to get some substantial money in. So if you heard $100 or $200 or $300 a year, whatever it was going to be, no. The average house will be, household assessed at $232, I believe, will be about $25 a year or less. So hopefully that dispels any of the myths out there as far as what this is going to end up costing the town. There's some money owed, if you look at this here, Harrisbrook, and some high school money that's going to be coming off on the debt exclusion about 3/4 of the way down. Those two, although they'll disappear at some time during the time period we're paying this back, a lot of what's happening with the borrowing for the other two projects melds in. So rather than have something where you're going way up, way down, way up, way down, and things fall off and things come on, the financial guys at the town did a really good job of, when we borrow long-term, short-term, just kind of keeping it smooth all the way through so it's not a huge dip or increase. So if you have financial questions, we can try to answer them. I'm not the right guy. I might be able to give you some of the answers, but we have financial people in place that can answer any real technical things, and we can get back to you. We can post it on our website or get back to you directly in either case. So I'm not sure if Donald, you guys want to talk about anything else, the process, what we've been doing since August, and where we've gotten and how we got where we are? Is it Dave Gonsalves?
Yeah, so we started our conversations with the town. The town had reached out back in September, August, September timeframe of last year. Initially, we were asked to look into things from a geotechnical perspective and site investigations. And then it just kind of further developed into also doing the design for the work. So in October, we submitted a proposal to the town that was accepted. And since October, we started our field investigations at the end of October, early November. We did geotechnical investigations, which are soil borings. We also did some site survey, and we also did some wetlands delineation. That was October, November. In November, December timeframe, we started developing our first two original concepts. We shared those with the committee, talked through those options, and then further refine these over the course of the next few months. Just as recent as a couple of weeks ago, we met with the Conservation Commission. We wanted to make certain that we provide them with all the information that they need for the permits that are also required as part of this project. So to date, we've developed 4 conceptual designs. As recent as the middle of February, we discussed, as Chip alluded to earlier, a design that they would like us to proceed with relative to our final design. So we're just in the process of starting that final design, and we'll keep the committee apprised of any changes or anything like that that are going on. But pretty straightforward project, I think. We've done quite a few of these from a track and field perspective. So it's kind of where we're at right now.
Thank you, Dick. So we want to thank you for coming. At this time, we'll entertain any questions you may have. Raise your hand if you would like. I can run around with a microphone for you. Yes, go ahead.
So outside of McDonald, what other estimates have you had? Use the mic.
So his question is outside of Mott McDonald, what other estimates have we received? Over the course of a number of years, we have received other estimates. There was one that came in at $2 million or so. I have met personally, over a 9-year period, have had a number of engineers that have come in to talk to me about turf and track.
As far as August, October.
The last one I received was probably probably last fall. Actually, no, even earlier than that, this past fall.
What'll happen is if we go ahead and we go through the election process successfully, we need to go to town meeting for appropriation. They actually will go out and bid to 4, 5, or 6 people that this is what they're not gonna, their prices are based on their experience.
Use the mic.
Sorry. Regarding the question, so Mott McDonald has created some estimates of construction costs based on other projects that they've done in other places in the country. So they're pretty confident they know what it's going to be all in. A lot of the same people that are installing in New Jersey, New York, etc. will be the people that will be bidding on this project. So their estimates are based on experience of recent projects that were done somewhere in the Northeast, let's say. If everything is appropriated and goes through and the project is a go, Mott McDonald will go out to 5, 6, open it up, I imagine, to any contractor that they feel is worthy and has the ability to do the job properly, and they'll be collecting bids for us.
So they collect all bids.
They do it all, yes.
So, no problem.
Yes.
So what'll happen is, with the way mass laws work, right? We will put this out to bid. So anyone, it's not just the 4 or 5. We won't exclude anybody, but it's a pretty cutthroat business out there. There are a lot of these contractors that do this stuff on a regular basis. So it's going to depend upon the market that we have, right? So if you've got 5 or 6 hungry contractors, your prices are going to come down. If everybody's busy, it's just like any business or industry out there.
So is all that disclosed in that logo, all the different bids that you guys get from all the other contractors?
The question was, have we been sharing with the town all the information that we've received? What we've been asked is to provide a price. So what we've done is we've taken a look at all of the projects that we've done, and we've given them what our estimate is for the project at this time.
The question is the bidding procedure is going to be open and transparent, all bids will be open by the time?
Yes. So typical.
Yeah.
Yes, so typical procedures, what will happen, at least that's the way we've typically done it, is the bids will come into the town. We won't have the bids. The bids will come, they'll be publicly read aloud. So all that information would be available to the town. The town would be the ones that would be opening the bids. Yes.
We'll still prepare the bid package, but we will open the bids here a certain day, time, together.
Initially, it sounded like it was just kind of, I'm going to go buy a car and I'm going to buy the first car I buy.
No, mass procurement requires us to get all bids in a certain way. So Mott McDonald will do the bid package specifications so that everybody is bidding the same project. Those bids, whoever's interested, will all bid on the project. They'll be given here to the town, and at a time we'll announce it. We'll open all the bids simultaneously to see who had the best the best number. It'll go back to them just to make sure we're comparing apples with apples and nobody put footnotes in that change something that we don't know. We're not specialists that way. But procurement laws for the state of Massachusetts protect the integrity of the whole process pretty thoroughly.
Just one of the examples too, there were some discussions about adding some additional components to the project. We would do those as bid alternates. So again, as Tony alluded to, everything has to be done in accordance with mass regulations, mass laws. So you can't just choose, I want to choose this part from this contract or this part from that contract. You're going with a base bid, so you'll have a base number, and then there are other components that you can choose, but everything has to be done in a certain way. So everything is in accordance with mass regulations. Ellie Villano's been involved with this as well. She's fully aware of how these bid procedures and bid laws are, so she would be involved as well.
And just so you know, and probably a lot of you guys are thinking, we have a plethora of contractors here in town, and why can't we use some? We're going to do our best in the process, and we're not sure how we can do it. The unions are kind of powerful. The procurement laws are such that we can't always get people that may want to donate time and do the in-kind donations. But if there is a way, I can tell you that a lot of the contractors on Carmelina have already raised their hand. They're willing to give us a hand with this, which would reduce these costs, but we can't count on it until we figure out how we can get them to the table legally, within the procurement laws. But that could also have an impact, but none of these numbers reflect that. At the end of the day, it could be a pleasant surprise. So that's also on the table.
I think I'm gonna do that.
I don't usually either, but I'll just.
I just have a couple actually technical questions. No one can hear me? On 3 different slides, you guys have 3 different dates. Chip, you had mentioned 2018 of April that the track was shut down. Mr. Grillo, you had 2 of your slides, one said 2017, one said 2018. 1, what was the actual year it was shut down? And 2, what was done between the time it was shut down and September 2019 when your committee was formed?
So we go back to
So basically, if I can go back to the slide, we had actually shut it down for competition, but not shutting it down completely. So we were allowing our athletes, it was deemed unsafe in 2018, unsafe for competition, for us to compete on it. So we shut it down. We couldn't run an actual track meet on that thing, so that's the biggest difference why. So from 2018 to now, that was your
September
question?
when you guys first met.
So what did we,
Like what was happening in that interim? If the state shut down the track, did we just say, okay, we don't need it, we're good?
no, we've been asking, this is why we put the committee together. We said we know we needed a track. So
My
this
question
is
is,
why
it
we
took
put
a
the
year
committee
from
together.
2018 to September 2019. That's, what, a year and a half it took for your committee to start.
We've been doing this all the way through. We've been approaching the selectmen, we've been asking capital improvements, saying we know this is coming. We've got to be able to, we're going to have to resurface the track. But what was happening was other projects were taking precedence over the resurface of the track. So we just kept bringing it to people's attention. It's just something that, we finally decided. We had a facility improvement team, and then when we came together, we said we need to now form this community track committee to raise our money.
And in addition to that, we also, from the school committee, we reached out to Representative Petrotti and Senator Lesser to see if there was any ability to get some state funding for this, and that's where that $100,000 came from. We were hoping for much, much more, but the best that they could do was $100,000, which we're certainly grateful for. So we were looking at alternative funding sources, and one was the state. So we knew it was something that needs to be done. We weren't sure exactly how we were going to tackle it, but the fundraising effort that Tim was working on, and we were reaching out to state and looking for federal grants as well too. And we also reached out to the Patriots. In case anyone was asking, we reached out to the Patriots. We reached out to other large organizations that do fund sometimes these types of projects, and we were denied by the Patriots. I think they offered to send us a helmet that we could auction off. That was signed. We didn't get it, so he passed on that. So that's where we were. That's what we were doing in the meantime. More questions?
First, I wanted to say thank you for all of your time because, especially for somebody who is as bad at multitasking as I am, I know what time is. So for all these months of research and everything, so thank you for that. This is just 2 hours out of my time. I know you've put in a lot more. My comment is, because I know you can't say anything regarding this until you get your vote, and I'll be going to the town meeting when it comes up. I would like to see, for myself, I would like to see you guys, the commitment from you guys. Okay, I want to know that you're going to take the pride in your track. I know, I'm putting you on the spot. Thanks for coming, but I want to know that, because when I leave a football game and there's cups and chip wrappers and everything all over the place, it upsets me, because I'll make my kids go around and pick it up. You guys don't deserve to have somebody disrespect you by leaving their trash behind. Sometimes it might mean you guys have to go back behind and pick it up for yourselves. I want you guys to bust your butts and do some fundraising and earn this, so that when you guys graduate, you can look at the people under you. When you go walk down that hallway, you can look at those kindergartners and know that you gave them a track. I want to know that the fundraising that comes in isn't just corporate. It's not just some big donations, which are obviously extremely important. I want to know that our community is putting the money in, even right down to the pennies. I'd really, really like to see one of those big thermometers with a goal, so that bring back the roar also means bring back the pride. I'd really like to see some small community involvement adding up.
And I will just say, just as she was saying, for the kids to take pride, we've actually had several of our students who have even donated $20 because it's important to them, and they may not have the money. It's true. I mean, they have. We're waiting on, big businesses who have said, we're waiting for a full commitment. These kids aren't waiting for the commitment. They're giving their $20. Most of them probably don't even have that. So their hard-earned money is already into this.
I have a question about the maintenance costs. Obviously, lack of maintenance is what got us to where we're at now. There's a few different numbers on a couple of different slides on what, Tim, you had put up there about what it costs to do in-house versus what it costs to do professionally. And then there's that $10,000 number. And then there's, somebody mentioned that every 10 years it costs $500,000 to resurface, to do whatever. So what are the costs exactly? And that $10,000 coming from the school committee, is that guaranteed? Because according to your website, it says we have to ask for it. And when you ask for it, there's a possibility that the answer is no.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let Tim talk about the maintenance again, but from the school committee, and I think Dr. Geist is here. Yes, he is. The school committee we've discussed this at our meetings, and what we do for technology right now, we take a certain percent, I believe it's $50,000, Dr. Gaza, each year, and it is dedicated towards technology, because we found in the past that we were lacking in technology, and we were always coming back to town meeting asking for more money, and if it wasn't available, it wasn't available. But we were falling behind. So the only way we could overcome that was to take a percentage of school choice funds. School choice is when a student from outside of Ludlow comes to Ludlow, that district where he or she's coming from pays Ludlow for that student to be here. So that we took a portion of that dedicated funds, put it into technology. The same thing is going to be committed here for $10,000 per year for future track maintenance. So we can guarantee doing it that way through a school committee action, through school committee vote with Dr. Gazda, that we can guarantee that that $10,000 stays in that fund and it moves forward. We're moving into a difficult budgetary year, but because of the commitment we've made to technology, that $50,000 is always going to be there, regardless of what else happens within the school budget. So, but as far as maintenance goes,
So your question was, I think you got confused
So
between,
there's that $10,000 number, right? But you've got, doing it professionally is $4,000 a year. And if you sign an 8-year agreement, it's $3,600.
correct.
If you do it in-house, it's $6. Plus you have to hire-
Plus, we don't know what the labor cost is.
But, yeah, so it's 6 plus what you have to hire somebody to do. Right?
Correct.
They had mentioned that every 10 years, it has to be resurfaced, 7 to 10 years.
10 to 15.
So one of the things, there was the $6,000, that's not an annual fee, that's for the groomer itself. And that groomer is actually part of our estimate, just so that folks are aware, that was included.
No, you mentioned every so often, and you had a number associated with it. So it's basically came out to about $500,000 every 10 years.
That would be, that's roughly what it would be, but that's the lifespan of the material that you're using. It's gonna last between 10 and 15 years, so it's not every 10 years, the better you maintain it, the longer it's going to last. So it might be 15 years, but yet in 15 years, the track's gonna have to be most likely redone again. Same with the turf. The better you maintain it, the longer it's gonna last, but it has a lifespan, and once that lifespan is over, you're gonna have to, do it again. Just carpeting in the infill. And the infill is usually a rubber and sand mix. So when that,
What's the cost of that? Like, kind of what the cost of servicing or
the resurfacing would be $6 a square foot of the track. So in another 10 or 15 years, I think that was $440,000 on our estimate.
If we kept all $10,000 that was put aside for 15 years, it's $150,000. So we're really having this conversation 15 years about where's the other, $350,000 coming from.
That's where the field rental and the outside money.
That's kind of, that's not.
I think the question was, so there's going to be a shortfall when the carpeting and everything needs to be replaced. First of all, it's going to be something that's going to need to be done, and it's going to happen whether it's a sod field or grass or just a track in general. The idea is for us to establish an enterprise fund within the school department's budget or wherever it lies. And when we do have the field rentals, and that would be the idea, is to be able to take that money and put it away and put it on the side. I know from experience the Lusitano field has made twice what they need to resurface, even though they're at 8 years and there's no signs of wear because they've been doing the maintenance and they get a tremendous amount of play. The idea would be to make sure that somehow the calculations are done to make sure that we have enough money when that comes up, that money is dedicated and it's sitting there. It's a business like anything else. We have to think about 15 years down the road so we don't get in the position that we're in right now where nothing was being put aside, nothing was being done, and when this happened, we have to go for dollar number one. So I think we're going to be looking better. As far as the maintenance, everything else, one of the things that this committee is committed to is when this all starts to come together, if it does, DPW, the school department, and capital planning, long-range capital planning, are going to sit down and have a real good meeting about what's going to happen in the future, and who's who and what is going to be everybody's part. So that 15 years from now, we're not looking at each other and pointing fingers and wishing we had the money or wishing we had done things differently. So there's no guarantee, but I think we're paying attention now, and we're not gonna purposely allow this to get away from us, and realizing what we need to do 15 years from now. There's no clear plan beyond the $10,000 and beyond making sure that we make the field available to the right people and we get paid for it.
So without a plan, you still come up short a couple $100,000.
You could come up short, Elder, yeah. The questions could come up, you still come up. But maybe we could have a surplus too. We've got to hope that the powers that be, wherever they are, 3, 4, 5, 8 years from now, are thinking like we are. That we've got to prepare for 15 years from now, and I know this committee's made a commitment to it. So we can only hope for the best and not think the worst is going to happen.
That
That $10,000 a year budget, is that a use it or lose it type of budget, or is it a rolling budget? Whatever you don't use goes into a carryover fund.
An enterprise fund of sorts, yes.
So when I see the numbers up here, I'm looking at $3,600 per year to maintain the grass, the turf, okay, to take care of that. And I would imagine that would be the only cost, because you still have resources out there to take care of the existing football field, would be utilized to blow out the track and stuff like that. So I would, at the best case, assume you're getting a $5,000 windfall a year if you follow the AstroTurf maintenance package. Is that a fair assessment, Dave, you guys? I mean, I don't see any additional costs coming in if you're getting a maintenance package.
And a warranty.
And a warranty,
Yes.
yeah. So, you know, over a 10-year period, you're sitting on, you should have a surplus plus any extra money to come in. Yeah, is that a true assessment? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
So you're over budgeting, you're intentionally over budgeting to account for the future, to a short extent.
Yes.
My other question would be, there are, and I've seen the facilities, I mean, I've moved here at 16 years old, Springfield, so I saw when they did Central. They did a great job at Central, Holyoke High School, don't know much about that, but is there a possibility of forming a consortium with these other schools and packaging a maintenance deal with AstroTurf Maintenance or whoever they use to further reduce that cost?
There's always a possibility. I can tell you right now, we work with the Lower Pioneer Valley Education Collaborative, which is in West Springfield. That's 7 towns and cities in the area. We do that for our kids who are into trades. So we have a collaboration with them. How many of those organizations have a track like this that would be able to be willing to partner with us? It's a unique idea. It's something we can certainly look into. I don't think it exists right now, but I hear what you're saying. Right now, if people are paying attention in the athletic world, there's a lot of these projects happening. He mentioned Wilbraham just happened. Amherst is trying to do theirs. Westfield, Holyoke, Springfield, they've all gone this way. Anybody who's redoing a athletic field is going with the turf because of the longevity and because of the usefulness that they get out of it. The one thing that Tim did bring up before, which I think bears repeating, is that youth football, youth soccer, all of our youth organizations can now use this field. And they can have evening games, night games, which actually brings in more revenue for those organizations. Football usually plays on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon at Whitney because this field can only handle so much use. So it would increase that. The other schools that I had mentioned went that way because they're just getting more use out of it. And to Heller's question, it's a good question, and you're 100% right. There is going to be a shortfall somewhere, but we're going to have something to put towards it. Right now, we have nothing to put towards it. So when we do go to capital improvement in 10 or 15 years, we can say, okay, we have $400,000 to put toward this. Can we do resurface this at this point? But it's a good question. You're right. There is that delta that's in between there. We're not going to be able to put enough. We're not going to be able to put $2 million aside between now and 10 years.
Is that $10,000 kept regardless of whether the OP is playing or the in-house?
Yes. And transfers.
I have a question on this turf.
Yes.
Sorry don't know much about turf.
I got you.
It's still 1-day package, so turf only needs to be taken care of once a year?
No. The maintenance, it's rubber.
And then actually, as you're answering that, I have another question. On your other estimates of maintenance costs, everything I saw in there was fields. I didn't see anything about the track. So does the track not need to be maintained? There's no cost to it until 10 years from now? We have to repave it or resurface it, or whatever it is?
The only piece really with the track is repainting the lines 6 to 7 years from now. Other than that, it's between 10 and 15 years you'd have to resurface it.
And keeping it clean, which could be a problem. Just making sure it's clean, there's no humidity building up with grass clippings.
So you do have a cost in it. I mean, you're paying somebody to go out there and make sure it's clean.
Minimal.
Right. And again, that would be one of our maintenance staff members that would go out there with a leaf blower to keep it, but it's very, very minimal.
Okay.
Yes. Mike? Dana?
First off, just want to say thanks for all your hard work. I know there's a lot of questions on the maintenance. I think everyone's missing the bottom line. And Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say it's even $40 a year instead of the 26. The numbers are off. It's $3 a month. $3.33 a month. Even if they screw up the maintenance and it's got to be replaced in 15 years, for $3 a month, we're getting a new athletic track and field that our kids can run on. I know I'm tired of seeing my daughter run around East Street and cross over Center Street. Everyone knows what Center Street's like by the Pike now. I mean, it's insane that the kids have to run all around through town, through all the traffic, by McDonald's, loop around, try to come back. And I think the gentleman was saying back there, you know, I've gone to her away meets and you go to Holyoke, Chicopee, everywhere else, it's like, dear God. And I know I'm on a lot of the Ludlow forums as well, and I see a lot of the complaints about the taxes and everything. But correct me if I'm wrong, if this gets denied, none of the other taxes are going down for the other projects that are already going. So you're just saving $26 a year, that's it. It seems like it's a no-brainer. It seems like you guys really did a good job on this. I understand there's work to do on the maintenance so we don't get in this position in 10 or 15 years. But I think like Tony was saying, a lot of that can also come from donations, but we can't get them yet because it's not approved, it's not on the budget. I mean, it's not, you know what I mean, it's not approved that we're going forward yet. So I 100% understand what he's saying is that, well, why would somebody want to see Al give $50,000 and then it gets denied, and you know, then Tim goes over for the basketball team and says, hey, you know, whatever the new medical place is, hey, you were going to give $50,000 to the track, how about give it for the basketball team now? But again, I think the bottom line is at $3 a month. To me, it seems like it's a no-brainer. That's my thought.
Thank you. One thing I haven't heard is when this gets approved, if and when it gets approved, the vote, when do you actually start construction and when should it be finished?
We've been having some conversations with Ellie Delano in town regarding schedule, and one of the things that we heard here tonight is that it's going to be borrowed money, right? So I believe we have to wait until July 1 before we can go out to bond the project or get the loan for the project, correct? So we would have to wait to start construction or to sign contracts by that point. If contracts were signed, let's say mid-July, there you are. If contracts were signed mid-July, theoretically within 3 months, John? 3 to 4 months?
3 to 4 months.
From starting is when the project would be complete. Not when you start construction, but when contracts are signed. So there's about a month there, a few weeks anyways, with shop drawing submittals and everything. But then we feel probably 2 to 3 months.
Yes.
So if we, July, September, October, early November.
If the stars line up, it could be a 2020 project.
2020. Who would the maintenance department answer to? Would it be Board of Selectmen, school department? If either of these companies, if any of the companies are not doing their job, who would they answer to?
So we have, about 7 years ago, Dr. Gazda, in his budget, when he hired one of the custodians, that person was charged with grounds maintenance. So that person currently works for the school department. So more than likely, that person is going to continue maintaining back there. So that would be a school department employee that would be answering to the business office and people that work for the school department. What's tricky about our form of government is that all the fields, even school fields, are still controlled by the Board of Selectmen. School department has authority over them between 7 and 3 or 4. Then in the evening, other groups can use it, they get rented out. Naming rights are by Board of Selectmen and School Committee jointly. And then the Recreation Commission assigns fields. So there's 3 organizations that kind of oversee all of the regulatory use of all the fields. Back in the day, you had a Parks and Recreation Department that handled all the maintenance. That now happens with all the DPW. So then you throw DPW in the mix for maintenance. So that now there's 4 organizations that oversee, or at least have their hand into one field. But as far as the regular maintenance, it would be a school department employee that would be back there. Outside of what, if they decide to go that route of having a private contractor come in to do that, the washing of the turf field, the grass. It's crazy.
All right, I moved my seat down here because I don't know who's going to have the answers, and I have several pieces of input here and questions. We have 19 days until there's a vote on this very project, right, for a tax increase. Am I correct in saying that?
19 days to get
March 23rd?
To approve it to the next phase.
To the next phase. At that point, if that gets approval, it goes forward to whom?
Town meeting.
Town meeting, correct? From the town meeting's approval, should it get forwarded from that point, how much time do we have until there's an actual move on the project?
That would be May 12th, and at that point, the financial people would get together and see what the process is going to be money-wise, where we're going to borrow, at what rate, when.
Okay, fair enough. That answers that enough to my purposes here with what I have. When I first heard about this committee, I don't know you, Mr. Brillo, but I did call you. I contacted you and I introduced myself and I explained the fact that I have a vested interest in helping with this project. I don't know if you recall the conversation, but it was heartfelt because I moved to Ludlow because I knew that at some point I would have a child here and in the sport of soccer, and I wanted it to be here in Ludlow. I came from South Hadley, and I'm very passionate about us having a turf. I never ever thought that coming here in 2003, that South Hadley would have a turf before Ludlow. That blew my mind, to be honest. We need this. We do need this, but I think it needs to be done right, and that's my concern. The members of the committee, I'm learning really in full tonight while I've seen the names. I don't know the backgrounds. It was some time ago that I was basically sent to the website, and at that time I learned about the donation button. I didn't know that anybody was collecting monies. I didn't know anything about the project. I didn't know that it was even having any momentum or movement whatsoever. Still currently, I don't see anything on monies collected privately through the donation button. All I see is the 100 and the 75. I don't know what the numbers are that's been collected actually through the donation button. To say that a business won't commit, I will argue that and say that I could have brought you letters of commitment privately. They don't need to be made public. You can simply announce that you have $100,000 stated in commitment without addressing who that business is. If they're worried about being made public for where their monies could have gone and what they're worried about in making commitment, that money could have been stated just in a number, not a business or a name. September of 2019, the committee was formed. October 17th through February 22nd, because the 22nd is when I checked. I looked at the Facebook page for this Ludlow Sports Complex, which personally I don't think is a name that really elicits a need for donations. It looks like a business to me because every sports complex that I've been to for any type of sport has been making money and taking $1,000, $900, $800 per team for every 2 months of play through winter sessions. And it doesn't really say that this is an initiative or a project for the town of Ludlow to get behind. The reference to the meter, explaining how much money that we need, I think that's a great idea. I think that would be awesome for us to see what we need to do here as a community. I looked at the Ludlow Sports Complex page and I see 20 posts in 4 months. The first 4 were a cover page, a profile picture, and then an introduction to, hey, thanks for coming out and this is what we're doing. The last 2 were for this meeting, a repeat post that was made. And that's a total right there of 6 that have really no value except for the introduction and the end of this meeting. In between our 14 posts over 4 months, with no engagement posts, nothing that asks questions, nothing that brings out or elicits any type of reaction from the community to say we need to pull together behind this project. And I believe in this project. I'm looking at the items that are here. We talked about contingencies. Well, if there's contingencies, then why are we worried about shortcomings? Why are we worried about the shortfalls? If you have the contingencies built in and you're planning ahead and everybody has as much information as they need to make an informed decision on the 23rd, then I think that that's what happens is we make an educated decision on the 23rd. I haven't heard about this, and all of a sudden it's there and boom, we're gonna raise taxes. And I say, what has been done to truly raise the money before that point? If I make a phone call and reach out my hand to extend in an effort to get you money, and nobody cares about my name or number or whether or not I have anything to offer, that's pretty bothersome to me living in this town, and I'm stating, wow, how can I help? How can I help you? Reach out my hand and I get nothing back. That's worrisome to me, because that's the committee, or those are the members of the committee that I'm supposed to trust in taking the money from that tax increase and using it and putting it to good use. And I've got to say, that's worrisome for me. We go into the numbers here further. Poor drainage, unplayable after rain. We're talking about this field right here. I've been the field director for the Ludlow Youth Soccer Association for 3 years now. And I know what it's like to have poor drainage and issues with safety for play. But we've got fields here that are neglected right now with the tax money that is being taken out right now. So if that's a problem right now for those fields, and we put all of our eggs in one basket towards the sport complex, what happens to the rest of those fields for Ludlow Youth Soccer that they actually use? Ludlow Youth Soccer was cited up here as using this field. They don't use this field. They're not allowed to use that field. We use Baird, we use the Boys and Girls Club, and we use Chapin. Well, we used to use Chapin. Chapin's gone now. We have the East Street School, and that's pretty much the majority of the games and vets. That's it. They're not using this field, so I don't know why that was up there for usage by Ludlow Youth Soccer, because it's not a part of this program here. It's one of those things that I look at. The turf maintenance, somebody answered that. There's $4,000 and $3,600. In-house is $6,000. In-house is $6,000. That's $6,000 that you said that doesn't include the labor, I believe. Is that correct? $6,000 does not include the labor? The machine, right.
Just the machine, that's up
Okay. So, and I know from personally working with your Parks and Recs department, those people are overworked, okay? They've got too much going on, because every time I try to get the fields ready, just for soccer alone, that's it. All those other fields are neglected, have holes, they need holes that need to be refilled. Irrigation system sticking up. I've got metal irrigation system sticking up. I need just loam or soil put over that so that I don't have a kid trip and hit his head and get banged up in the game. I've got to make sure those goals are accurate as far as what's required by league rules and what's required by all of the state athletic rules that we have to make sure that everything's okay. And that's just soccer, but this isn't about soccer. This is about so much more. This is about an entire sports complex that will house almost every sport that we have here in the town of Ludlow, and it's got to be done right. I don't disagree that we need it. We need it. We absolutely need it. But if this is what I'm supposed to take all of my tax money and say, yep, go ahead and go with it, I've got to ask what's going on prior, what's neglecting the fields prior, and what happens when we go forward with this increase that somebody has already slated to $22, $23, $26, and there's math that's being done here. And I'm appreciative of that math, but there's no guarantee on that. There's just not a guarantee. And I think that you're clear on that it's not a guarantee.
Go ahead, Jesse. Why don't you finish?
Well,
I'll address it out. Go ahead.
I've got to pick up a son from soccer practice right now, and I got to go, and that's why I jumped down here. Because there's some pieces that I have.
Not playing anywhere around here, I might add.
The donations, I'd like to see those numbers listed. If there's money that came in through that donation button, why isn't it there? And if there's businesses that are willing to commit and they're afraid, they want to stay in the shadows because they're afraid of what their towns, I find that to be a cop-out from the business, and you can simply rebuttal that with, we can make that private. We don't have to make the business known, but we can absolutely say that we have letters of commitment from 13 businesses that have supported this much money coming into the project, because I do believe that there's businesses out there. And as I stated to you, Mr. Brillo, I could bring in businesses that would absolutely donate. They could do that. The project was right in the beginning stages at that point, I'm guessing around September, October timeframe. So maybe the committee hadn't gotten it off the ground yet, things weren't organized, but I do believe with more information made public, more information, this is without lights, that was one of the questions that I had, and without lights that's another expense that comes in. South Hadley got it with lights, without the track. So there's little bits and pieces. Every community has done things differently on how they did the total project. That sponsorship tier system, that's the first time I saw that. I don't know if that's on the site or not, but knowing that that's there gives me some idea of how to go about and push out to the public as far as what's there. But I think ultimately, like I said from the beginning, we absolutely need this, but we need to make sure it's done the right way. And I feel like it's being rushed a little bit. That's my 2 cents. That's what I have. I think we just need to be smart about how we spend our tax dollars and how we advance the need for more money.
Good, Jesse. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Let me just try to answer some of those. So when we all got together and the school department and the track and field people came in, and there was about maybe 100 parents that had come into the selectman's office one night to talk about this. And when we decided we were going to have a committee, and we were going to put this committee together, we tried to reach out and get people that we thought might be qualified, that have been through something before. I might have a little bit of experience in construction, that sort of stuff. That's everybody's opinion, right? So we asked for several people from departments, and then we went out, Facebook, newspaper, town hall, looking for volunteers. We didn't get 4. We had to recruit them. So as far as the interest in looking for people that wanted to join, etc., nobody. We basically went out and had to get an additional 4 people to join our board. Because even though there was 100 people in the room at the selectman's office that wanted a new track, because those kids were going away for meets, nobody seemed to be able to find their way in. As far as the PayPal and donations, I apologize. Probably my fault indirectly. I tried to get those numbers today from Dolly Cinconi at the school department. She controls the PayPal button and donations coming in. She was out today with a couple of doctor's appointments, wasn't able to get them in. I'll see to it that those are up within a couple of days. Tim promised me today that he'll get that if need be, right Tim? And I'll make sure you get an email, Jesse, with those, okay? So you don't have to go looking for them. The social media has been myself, Pat. Now, it's just, and I know we talked about this before. This committee is not in favor or against this project. So when you said for us to be out there and doing cheerleading sessions online, that's not what we were put here for. We were put here to get engineers and try to figure out what the town needed and try to get some pricing and get some fundraising if we could. But our job is not to say we're all in favor. We each have our own opinions on this. But our jobs weren't to push this to get it through. Our job was to bring this information that you guys have here to the front, and everybody can see it and decide how they want to vote coming up. So maybe you didn't understand what our purpose was when we were formed, but it wasn't to make this happen. It was to put it on the table so everybody could see what was going on and let them decide if they wanted it and vote and march on it. Okay, is that fair? So, yes.
On that idea about the vote, can you explain what a yes vote will do and what a no vote?
A yes vote will just take this to town meeting. It'll allow the town meeting members on May 12th, to talk about this. It'll become a warrant that'll have to be, the funding will have to be appropriated. It's not a given that even if it passes at the ballot, that the money will be appropriated by the town. That's phase 2 of this. All we did as a committee was bring it to this point, ask the selectmen to put it on the ballot, which they voted to put it on the ballot, and from here there's still a lot of other work that needs to be done if it's going to pass. Does that make sense? Okay. LYSA, I feel your pain. I know that East Street School is an accident waiting to happen. I know my kids play at East Street School, and it is tough. But unfortunately, this committee and what we're doing here and what we've done has nothing to do with the existing fields. I
need a reference for where those tax dollars are going to go and where they're not already going.
Yeah, and I can't answer for the past tax dollars. All I can tell you is that from the standpoint of this project, if the voters decide they're gonna put it through the town meeting and it is approved, I personally made a commitment, or me as a selectman, whatever you wanna call it, I've made a commitment that I wanted an airtight plan, and Chip, you remember when you guys came in the first time. Long-range planning, DPW, school department, somebody's gotta sit down and convince me that we have a plan going forward. Not only the financial part of it, but somebody that's gonna take responsibility for implementing it for the next 15 years, because I'm not sure where I'll be there. So that's, the LYSA stuff is one thing, this is something totally different, but I think you can trust that this committee is doing the right thing by what we're trying to accomplish. And shouldn't be any holes in the floor on that one that anything can fall out.
And I think I look at this by adding a turf.
By adding the turf field, you're now taking, the DPW no longer has to maintain that turf. They can now use their resources to go maintain another field. We could now take a field offline, allow kids to play on the turf. I know a couple of years ago they resodded Baird Middle School. It really didn't have enough time of non-playable dates to really let that sod take hold. Now they'd be able to shut it down and say, listen, you can't use it, you'll be able to use the high school. You know, because currently right now we're allowing Summer League to play at the high school because they have no other place to go. They couldn't go to Chapin Street, we took that away. You know, in terms of LYSA using it, anytime that they've reached out to me and said, can we use this field to, you know, can we play it, can we scrimmage, can we use the baseball outfield? I've never said no. So,
we can't even rest the fields.
Correct, we can't rest them right now. Right. So adding this turf allows you to rest a field.
Again, we need it. We absolutely need it. Yeah, I'm not gonna argue that, it's just how to go about it, and that's my point.
And with the turf, you're gonna get a lot more playing time, a longer season, and the weather's not gonna play havoc with you. Anybody else? Yvette?
I'm a numbers girl, that's just what I am. Can anybody hear me? Yeah. Okay. So yes, I probably say 75% of people sitting here right now are all for giving our kids whatever it is they need. This town has proved that over and over again. You have proof up there between the high school renovations, the Baird renovations, the new school. So I want to say 75%, we want to give the kids what we want, what they need. We want this track and everything else. But I don't think the town has given us confidence in the town in maintaining it and keeping it upkeep. You guys are always telling me to put taxes on it. That's our main problem. Yes, you are correct, sir. It's only $25 a year. It's only $3 a month. But if the town takes out a loan, we all have mortgages most likely, you get interest. So how long is this loan going to be?
15 years.
So you're looking at how much in interest?
Got me.
So it's only $25 a year, but times that by 15 years, you're looking at probably like $400, $450 per household that you're getting for this loan. Did you guys think about, instead of taking out on taxes, putting it out to the residents and say, hey, how about you guys, $250 per taxable property we probably have about 10,000 taxable properties in the town of Ludlow, give or take.
Not sure.
Say let's split up in 4 payments, $250 per taxable property. I would be more than willing, and I have no children, so none of my children are playing in this school field. I'd be more than willing to pay $250 right there. Take it off my taxes, so I'm not paying for it for the rest of my life.
Can I just say that that's...
And actually, if you do the $250,
I think the idea was to make maybe larger lump sum and get people in the town. It's not an option. It's not in the state playbook of how we can raise money. The reason it's over 15 years, it's debt excluded. Otherwise, we'd go over our 2.5 levy. So like the school or the senior center, this has to be borrowed outside of the budget.
So you're telling me that every single resident is a taxable resident in this town can donate $250?
They can donate. That would be great if they all donated $250 or $500. We wouldn't have to borrow as much. But to have a mechanism in place where we could go out to bid and sign contracts based on hopefully getting money in the way you're talking about, the law doesn't allow for that. It's a very strict set of rules, how we do it, what happens, etc. You know, we're hoping that, and like Jesse said, we're hoping that a lot of the people that have talked about donating are going to come through for us. You know, we've got a certain sphere of influence, all of us, and we've spoken to a lot of people. But there was a concern that if it didn't go through, they were exposed as having the ability to make those donations. And to your point, I have those people, I know they are, but I'm not making it public. But I know those people are. Chip has his. We all have our people we're going back to. We're pretty confident that we'll get the commitment from them, but we're not going to make it public and put them in a position where they don't want to be. That somebody else now knows they have the money, this doesn't go through, and they're being bothered for that money because it's committed dollars, and you didn't give it to them, give it to me.
One more question with that
Yes.
15-year loan. So we're still paying on the, you guys had said in 2001, when the track was done, that was when the Ludlow High School renovations were done. We're still paying on that one.
I'm not sure what the money that's still owed is for.
It's the LHS renovations.
But there's like $1.5 million left from Baird and $2.5 million left on high school. if I'm
Correct.
not
So
mistaken.
we're still paying on the first loan we took. You said this new loan will be 15 years. They told us in about 10 years, we have another $400,000 to resurface it again.
No, they said in 10 to 15, depending on what happens, but it could be as much as $400,000 or
So we
$500,000,
could
yeah.
potentially have another tax increase on a loan that we're already paying to another loan.
We're putting the money aside, and between the 10,000 coming in from the school budget and then whatever we can raise from the field activities. If it's not coming in from there, we're spending $50,000, $60,000 a year for the next 15 years to cut grass back there. So we're not reinventing the wheel or creating an expense that's not already going to be in place. And if you really look at it, after this initial expense, it's pretty much what we're going to spend, whether it's grass or whether it's turf. And I think we have a much better, that's in the worst case, I think we have a much better chance of raising some money with the turf field and make it not as much as it would be if it is grass. And that's, water staying cheap and fertilizer staying cheap and labor staying cheap. Yes, Al?
So, to me, like Jesse had mentioned, I think it's something that needs to be done. I don't think there's any question of that. My biggest problem is something that you just mentioned a few minutes ago, is that if and when this passes, then you're going to put a plan together for maintenance and for this, that, and the other. Why are those plans not done prior to and make it part of this information session and say...
The question is, why don't we have our plan for maintenance for the future right now as part of this? This committee wasn't charged with coming up with that plan.
Understood, but this committee is asking us as taxpayers to...
Right, our job, Elder, here...
Without all of the information.
Our job was to gather as much information as we can about what it's going to cost to do something back there, what it's going to cost the town to borrow, etc. As I told you before, the school department, when they did come in, long-range planning was something that we discussed, that if this gets off the ground, then there needs to be a solid plan that the selectmen are good with going forward, and the right people are in place, the right people have signed off, and successors to each one of these committees. Again, I'm not going to be here 15 years probably, neither is Chip, and a lot of these, but the next people are going to pick up, there's a written plan. Well, you're going to be here, but you don't have time. Keystone.
Yeah. These are the two turf maintenance options that BG.
No, I understand. No, but what was mentioned earlier was that a group of people, whether it's a selectman or DPW or whatever, and somebody mentioned the form of government doesn't allow for the accountability that it probably should, but that's a story for another day, whether the form of government works the way it should. But the accountability part of it, number one, right now there's nobody to be accountable for if it falls through, if the maintenance, if it just falls apart in 6 years. And you're saying there's going to be a plan put together if and when this passes.
And I think if you heard Chip, there is somebody now at the school department that's been charged with making sure that all the fields are in place, the work is getting done within whatever budget they have and whatever they've been given for direction.
So the same people are going to be charged with keeping this up are the same people that have let things go to disrepair in other parts of the town?
No, Elder, that's not the case.
It's a question.
No, I know. So one of the things we don't know, and in theory, we could sit here and tell you that there will be a solid plan in place for the maintenance going forward. We're going to look at the financial part of it to make sure that we're hopefully preparing properly for the 15 years from now, etc. But we don't know if it's going to be AstroTurf or another company. We don't know if it's going to be a 15-year warranty, a 12-year, or an 18. We don't know if the AstroTurf contract or some other person is going to be, you know, $2,500 a year if we promise to go 10 years. So to sit there and try to figure all that out right now would probably, we'd be wasting time that we have other things we're trying to concentrate on and get together. And as far as, and I know that somebody has said, maybe it was you, Justin, as far as it's rushed, it hasn't been rushed. I can tell you that Route 21, the engineering took less time than the time we've spent with this. From when we hired Mott McDonald, they, as fast as they've been able to produce anything for us to look at and discuss, we've had meetings. And it's been for almost 7 months in the making. Probably more than 7 months officially. But before that, it was already on the table. But it was about 7 months ago that we said, okay, enough's enough, let's get busy. So if we started 2 years ago, or we started in August like we did, I don't think the results you have here in front of you would be any different than what they are. I think we've got the best possible engineer we could get, we've got the best product that we've looked at, and we've painted the best possible scenario within reason without deceiving anybody, I think.
And mine had less to do about the dollar figure, or when I talk about the plan, it's less about the dollar figure as it is the accountability and having someone to be the face of the, hey, this is on me, or this is on this.
Yeah.
This is on this committee. And
It's on me.
not just pointing at you.
So there's two lanes of maintenance. So there's the regular, every day, every week maintenance. That's handled by the school department. That's what our guy is going to be doing. The other lane is the planning for the future. So that $10,000 a year that we're going to be putting aside will build up over time. It's going to be a pool of money. It's not going to be 100% to pay for the resurfacing and the new turf. So that's the other lane. So you're referring to that part. How we got here was, as I said right from the get-go, we did go to capital improvement. 2008, you know, think back in history, it was a recession. Everything got really tough. The town tightened its belt. It just, the money wasn't there. I can't predict in the future, but we are going to have to go back to capital improvement, 10, 15 years, say, okay, the track is ready. We have, you know, $300,000 or some other donated funds to put towards it, but the town needs to put it in. We shouldn't be sitting here where it's $1.9 million again, ever. I mean, that should be the case. That's the plan. When you say maintenance, there's two lanes. And you talk about East Street and Chapin Street and the poor conditions of the fields. You know, that is the DPW's function. And as going back to what Tim said before, this really will provide an opportunity to take one of those fields offline, let it sit for a full year so we can regenerate, and then put it back online. That was supposed to be the plan 10 years ago, but we're Ludlow. We play soccer 12 months out of the year if we can. And those fields, there's such a high demand that those fields never get a chance to rest. So we've learned our lesson. We're in a tough spot right now, but maintenance-wise, those are the plans. Daily maintenance we got your back. Future maintenance, we're gonna put some money aside, and we hope we can afford it, you know, through capital improvement requests. Who's next? Yeah, no, second. Well, Lou's here.
Hi folks, my name's Derek DeBarge. I'm the current chairman of the Board of Selectmen. For those of you that don't know, I'm one of the ones that voted against this project going to the ballot. If you don't know that, it was on the website too. So there's a couple things I do want to explain why I voted against this project. First of all, when the Board of Selectmen decided to form the track and field committee, it was mainly for two reasons. The first one was fundraising. Make no mistake about that. We wanted to have a committee with members on that committee that had specific talents. And those talents were for fundraising, and also that had talents to get a track and field going. So some that had done the track at the Gremio, some that were engineers, and some, of course, that knew many people in town that had the experience to do some fundraising. As that began in September, we had suggested that they get the thermometer board going right away, and even try to get some signs out in town, because we had seen the turf at chalk signs all around Wilbraham. However, with municipality projects, there are some caveats to making signs. You can't do that with municipal funds. You have to do that with private funds, so there are some issues with some things like that. My issue with sending this to the ballot was simply because of tax implications. The debt exclusion, we already have $1 on the debt exclusion from the school project and from the senior center project. The dollar on our taxes from that debt exclusion has nothing to do with our operational taxes. So the $26 or the $31 or the $22 that we're talking about from this project gets added onto that dollar from that debt exclusion.
11 cents.
So now it doesn't automatically mean that it would be $1.31 each year or $1.26 each year. That can change depending on our operational budget and depending on how everything goes with the departments. There's no mistake, we've talked about it at Board of Selectmen's meetings, for the 6 of you that watch the Board of Selectmen's meetings, that the FY21 budget is a very difficult budget. We've asked departments to factor in cuts, and they're looking a little bit better than we initially thought. However, it's still going to be a difficult time. That I factored in my decision as well. Now, I'm a coach. I'm a baseball coach. I'm a basketball coach. Do I want these fields? Absolutely. The track, baseball, football, soccer, absolutely. I'm a part of sports associations that rely on donations. You have to get out there, pass the hat. You have to do your own fundraising. I'm very aware of that, and I'm very involved in that. My biggest disappointment with this is that I expected the track and field committee to go out there and do their due diligence in fundraising, and I really thought that we would be farther along, and we're not. And that's this isn't personal, it's got nothing to do with that. What I said is, if I saw $300,000 in our fundraising kitty, I would have voted yes. No mistake about that, but we're not there. I needed to see something that would take some burden off the taxpayers. As a selectman, I've got to be worried about every demographic that's in town. I can't just be worried about kids on the track, kids on the field. I've got to be worried about our seniors. I've got to be worried about everybody, and everybody's affected by our tax bracket. Everybody's got to pay taxes, and our taxes are going up, and up. And I cannot, in good conscience, add the entire amount of this project without taking some money off of it through fundraising, knowing that it's just going to add more money to that debt excluded number without having some other recourse. So that was my decision on why I voted against it. If we can do something more, if it ends up passing on the ballot, that gives us more time to fundraise. If it ends up passing on the ballot and it goes to Maytown meeting, and the precinct members decide to let it go and pass that, then it gives us more time to fundraise. And just to address one more thing, if it passes through both and we end up getting to July 1st, to go out to bond will be the decision of our town treasurer, not just July 1st. She will decide, depending on our town finances, on when we can go get that bond. it will not just be July 1st or July 15th. It could be into August, depending on how our finances look, just so that everybody understands that. Thank you.
One last thing. It goes, if and when it goes to town meeting, are you gonna have a more information so they can make a better decision? This is informational. They're making a decision as to going forward. They may have the same questions we had tonight. Will be more information be proposed or given to them?
Thank you. So as I think every week that goes by, we're getting closer and closer to knowing what the exact number is. They're behind the scenes, they're meeting conservation, they're looking at DEP standards, whatever's got to be done with the drainage. They're looking to see if there's any new and fantastic surfaces out there that maybe we can get for a little bit less money than what they've told us now can be purchased, what we can purchase the stuff and have the work done for. So between now and then, a lot of things will change. To Derek's point, the fundraising, we were kind of in a pickle because, again, the function of this board isn't to try to push this project and get everybody in this room to nod their heads like this and go out and vote, or any subsection of people that are out there to push them to go to the ballots to vote. Our job, our function has been to basically look at the project and look at the best way to present it to you folks at hopefully a price tag that's palatable for the taxpayer, and then let you guys make that decision. Yes, the fundraising part, we're all eager to start the numbers coming in. The thermometer is a great idea, but again, because we were put in that position, yeah, whoever the thermometer, we thought about it. Derek, I think it was your idea with the thermometer, somebody on the board at a selectmen's meeting, that we do the thermometer. It's just that if we're not out there killing it, then the thermometer could work against us, or it might not look that good, even though it's a good idea to have that at the bridge or at the turnpike or something like that. With regards to fundraising, and I'm just gonna, because I love numbers, so if we were to go out and raise $300,000, the dollar that Derek talks about, this current debt that's on our tax bill now, this project represents 11 cents. That's what that $26 is, it's 11 cents. So if we were to go out and raise $300,000, that 11 cents would become something like 8 cents. So you can decide if that's a big difference or it isn't a big difference, or roughly the $26 would probably become $20, $21, all numbers being equal. So that, I'm not saying it's good, bad, different, just translating the numbers down to what it really is. Yes.
I promise not to be long-winded. So I would say this, that the fundraising and the social media platform, both to me, are extremely important. What Derek hit on, we've got to get this together because ultimately we need this done. We want it done. It's just how can we get it done best and most beneficial for a community, a whole entire community, not the soccer players, not the football players, an entire community with generations coming forward here that are going to hit that field and do what they need to do. I would recommend throwing lights into that budget and getting fundraising going so that we can make this all come together. I understand it may not be feasible, but letting them play under the lights is an awesome adventure, and it also expands time that we have for practices, and it also expands revenue coming in for rental, which I know other fields are doing, renting to outdoor leagues and whatnot, and they're paying monies per hour to get those fields used. It also gives us a little bit of time if we have to go into a 5, 6 p.m. when practices are going dark. Here,
The lights are there.
in the project.
The lights are out there right now.
But those are staying.
They're staying.
Okay, I thought you said this was loud
We're
lights.
not just upgrading to LED, we're just keeping the existing lights.
Fair enough. So getting that back on track, it makes it more palatable, I think, for everybody if there are monies there and in. As Derek stated, if I knew that there were monies in and we were putting this forward, going in with a head start, it makes it much more palatable for a taxpayer. But to understand where that money's going, I think it's important that we have that going. And as far as your explanation of this has been going on for a long time, and 7 months and probably prior, with the social media platform and information regularly. I mean, interactive information posted, and not just something that just gets posted as a meme or something like that that's made to show kind of what progress is or meetings that are coming up is something that's actually engagement. Engagement posts are important, and it would show all of everything that you've been doing over that time frame, because as I stated on one post in that forum, there may be plenty of work being done. I just didn't know about it. And if I'm one person here in the community, I'm sure there's plenty of others that feel the same way, and there's others that aren't even on social media and know nothing about this, and all they're gonna hear is that their taxes are being increased for a field, and they're gonna wonder why. I gotta go pick up my kid.
And again, and it's, a lot of it I don't understand personally. We're very limited. We've been advised very strongly by town council and Ellie. We're very limited. We can't be out there imposing whatever we personally feel through social media or anywhere else. Prior to social media and computers, town hall always had a place where they posted meetings, and that continues to be where people post meetings for anything going on in town. And certainly every meeting that we've had needs to be posted, otherwise we can't have it under open meeting laws. So if you really want to know what's going on, you can't find it, or if you're not a Facebook person or whatever else, the town hall, Town of Ludlow website, every meeting there's a calendar. You can find out everything going on in town like the good old days, without having to go and read the bulletin board outside town hall, actually. So again, bear with us. Our hands are somewhat tied on what we can do with that social media page, what we can say or not say. I'm going to get you raised and waiting for a while.
I have a question which involves maintenance, or the cost of the maintenance down the road. Now you projected a cost of $6 per what, square foot?
Square foot.
Okay. And where that's so far out, how can you project that?
That's typically what.
That's what I'm saying.
That is based off of today's dollars. So yes, in the future it could be more, but based off of our experience, that's what a new track would cost, new servers on a track would cost. Yes. Yeah.
Well, you know, in 5 or 10 years, those costs are going to go up.
They might slightly, but the one track I've done previously, which is about 10 years old now, that was the same cost that we got 10 years ago, was at $6. So the product, because it's only small rubber pellets and polyurethane, the increase hasn't gone up at all, really. But that's not to say that it won't go up, but we can't predict whether it is or it isn't going to go up. But with my experience, I haven't seen the cost of that product go up at all in 10 years.
Yeah, I've got to go. We're not going to forget you, okay? I promise. But some people in the back are going to.
Hello, is Derek still here? Or did he leave? Derek, am I correct to assume that, the selectmen, when you voted no, you did say that with the senior center project and the Chapin Street School project, plus if this project gets approved, we are at the ceiling where we can't borrow any money, more money if there's an emergency and we need it.
We're close.
Okay.
What is that number?
Sorry?
$1,000. Because this doesn't affect 2.5, right? You're talking about the being able to borrow money, and you're making a decision our financial advisor would normally make, whether or not we're lendable or we're not. That's not what you were to answer to him, right?
No. What he's asking is what I have stated before is if we had some kind of catastrophe that doesn't rise to the level of a state of emergency, the town administrator and I have discussed how nervous we would be in needing to go out to borrow to fix that catastrophe not rising to the level of a state of emergency. If it was a state of emergency, we would still have to cover it and then we would get reimbursed. But again, if it doesn't rise to the level of state of emergency, we would be in a tricky state to have to borrow.
Probably potentially a little bit more expensive because we'd be
We would be at a high risk
we'd
to
be
go out
levered a
and get
little
a
bit
bond.
more than maybe a standard bond or a preferred bond might be able to, but we'd still be able to borrow just at a higher cost most likely.
We would be at a risk to go out to bond, and we are at our levy limit.
Right, on the rest of it.
Yes.
Where it might
Good evening. I have a revenue question, not a tax question. In terms of turf, right, if projected plans to make turf at the field, we obviously have some revenue potential there, renting it out to certain sports, things like that. You know, you look at different towns have different athletics. They have lacrosse, field hockey, and I know we talk a lot about youth soccer here. Has there been thought as to, obviously it would house the varsity football and soccer team, has there been thought as to what additional lineage would be on the field, whether it be youth soccer? Because youth soccer up to a certain age is different dimensions. You know, I sit on the board of directors at the Gremio. If anyone's ever been there, you have the youth soccer fields that go sideways on the fields. So youth soccer would obviously need additional lineage for that. I don't know, you know, is it something where, when I was in high school here, I know we didn't have field hockey and lacrosse, I don't know now, but is it something where we put those lines in and that's something we develop down the road? Or just has any of that thought been put in, and what are the thoughts? Or youth football, I don't know if youth football, right, has different dimensions. I don't know, but any or all of the above. Thank you.
So we did discuss, because this is going to be a synthetic turf, you can put anything you want. Sometimes they're sewn in. So you can have smaller or larger for soccer. Football is football, no matter what size field you play on, it's the same thing. We did discuss building potentially for the future for lacrosse in the event that Ludlow ever gets into lacrosse, because that is kind of an up-and-coming sport. I shouldn't say up-and-coming, it's been here for a long time. But we could stitch in a lacrosse field as well too. So yes, that was part of our discussion, and when talking to the engineers, we can design it any way as far as the lineage goes. Like, you know, soccer lines will be yellow, football will be white, lacrosse could be red, field hockey could be another. It's pretty confusing when you're playing on it because you're seeing all these lines all over the place, but every one would have its own specific designation, so that in the event that we do have it designated for lacrosse, even if we don't have a team, we could be a neutral site that we could host a tournament. You know, Long Meadow, Wilbraham, if they're playing each other, needing a neutral site, Ludlow could potentially be that. I'm not sure if South Hadley did it, but most of them are putting lines in for all different fields, just in the event that they're, so that they're available. So we have discussed that. East Long Meadow, well, they have lacrosse.
There is a couple of ways to do it. We could currently, just because we only have soccer and football right now, we can line it for that, have them stitched in. You can also paint those lines on. So for instance, if we wanted to be a neutral site for a field hockey MIA game, we could paint the lines on. In the future, if we brought in lacrosse, we could go back to the turf company and say we would like to add in the lacrosse lines. We'd have a choice. We could either paint them on or we could have them stitched back in.
Thank you. Tumble table shots.
Hi, my name is Steve Talbot. 10 years ago, almost to the day, I had my first practice on the track. Last June, I was coaching the Oklahoma Sooners at the D1 National Championship meet. So I hope it carries some weight when I say that this is so much bigger than track, and this is bigger than football and softball and baseball and even soccer. This is about sending a message to, my guys up here that when this auditorium needs to be renovated because, someone wants to get on stage for the first time, or the computer lab needs to be redone so that someone can code their first app, when we can give our young people the chance to, find themselves and chase down a dream and, just discover who they are, we need to do that because we talk about, tax implications and, future-proofing and what happens down the line. And for me, the obvious solution is keep the young people here. If we don't invest in them, they're just gonna go. look at the people that, I graduated with, all of my friends, there's me and one other that are still here, of the people that I was really close with in high school. Everyone else just left. I have my reason. I am a lion every single day. But, for those other people that we don't put money into and we say, just not worth it, they're gonna go, they're not gonna come back, they're not gonna keep putting money into the town, and that debt and that's tax dollars, they're not gonna get spread out. So invest now, keep people here, keep them coming back. I think that's the obvious solution.
Hi, my name is Carmina Fernandez. I'm the other Board of Selectmen member and Vice Chair that voted against the project, not because I don't believe in the project. It's my wish to get all our facilities looking beautiful. That's my wish, but unfortunately sometimes our wish and what we can do can be two different things. My biggest concern was that next year, our residents are going to see a significant impact from the senior center and the new school. And I wanted the residents to feel that before we start saying we're going to add more to those taxes. I also thought, as a Board of Selectmen anyway at that time, I didn't feel that enough due diligence had been made. I believe I agreed wholeheartedly with what Jesse said. I thought that you have put some more time now into and provided us with more information, but I thought it was rushed, and I even recommended, why don't you wait another year, let that tax impact, let the residents feel that tax impact, give yourself more time to get all these details out to the voters, and then present it to everyone. I was also the one that said about the meter, because I know that was really successful with the Veterans Project. And I thought getting some passion behind this can get maybe residents really interested in supporting it. So that's the reason I voted against it. And I really still think we should wait at least one more year to let that tax impact hit everybody. We have to consider all our residents in town, and not everybody can afford $23
I have a question for you.
extra.
Tony, Mr. Goslow.
Yes.
She says that we gotta wait another year, right? It's all great. How many years we've been waiting for the field and track?
That's right.
Let's wait another year, so we'll never have a field and track in Ludlow, right?
The board unanimously voted to fund the engineering with 70%.
It's gonna cost us $26 a year.
We believe that this project should go forward, but we need to have the residents understand.
It's gonna cost me $26 a year, big deal. I'll go to McDonald's one less time a year.
Okay, I think we killed that point.
Okay, of course, Derek DeBarge isn't here anymore. I had a question for him.
Get it back over there.
Oh, hey, okay, so you want to represent all the constituents. I'm not using the senior center, but it's right for them to have a new senior center.
Agreed.
Right. So I don't have kids in Chapin, never have kids in Chapin anymore. I voted for it because it's necessary.
Agreed.
We have to be proud of our community. And waiting another year, if they already have an increase, they're going to go and add more. So it's never a good time.
Never gonna happen.
It's never going to happen.
Never gonna happen.
We've been waiting for 4 years.
We've been waiting longer than that.
19.
19
So
years.
I want you to understand that you have to represent all constituents.
Yeah, I am.
You're not.
You're not.
Because I voted for the senior center.
Okay.
I'm not a senior. And I'm never going to be a senior in here, at the senior center. I don't have kids at Chapin right now. So I still voted for it because it's community. It's about more than just an extra $22 a year. So I would appreciate if you represent my kids and myself, and you're excluding us. It's how much was the senior center? How much was it? A few hundred million? 14 million?
9.8.
So before it was approved, how much fundraising was done? Or was fundraising done after it was approved?
All throughout the project.
Thank you. So if we approve it, we can fundraise all throughout the project.
That's what I just said when I was talking.
Yeah, but
But
you
no,
said
but-
if they raised $300,000, you would have voted for it. Tony said that would went from $26 a year to 21. That wasn't a huge savings, but if
How
they
do-
raised $300,000, you would.
How are we gonna go and raise $300,000, sending the kids to fill the boot, sending the kids to sell chocolates to, all through the neighborhoods, really? And then someone else mentioned here, we should all donate, really? So everyone is gonna donate $200 and something. Every taxpayer is gonna donate that. Is that realistic? Is that realistic? No, we're not. So this is the only way, and I think it's fair if we vote to help other constituents, that we should have a fair share. Don't you think?
Okay, just in the interest, because I turn into a pumpkin at about 8:30. So I know Manny has been waiting, this lady here. And then if there's something new directly involved at the project and anything that we've spoken about with the engineers, any questions of the experts up there, versus directing we're starting to get a little bit off track. So we'll try to stay on track and get more informed if there's something we haven't spoken about.
So a couple of things with regard to the maintenance of the current track and the future track. So it sounds as if the school department will be in charge of maintenance of the future track. Is anybody being held accountable for the mismaintenance of the old track?
Chip.
I'd like that to be addressed as to which department or department head was in charge and should have been. Does it have to be answered right here?
Several different
That's my problem.
departments and
And that's my problem. Too much finger pointing, nobody's taking accountability.
That's why we need a written
If
plan, we'll have one.
If you work in the corporate world, you don't take accountability, you get fired. Somebody needs to be held. Two, you said the maintenance of the current field, if we keep it as grass, we would cost $50-something thousand a year, roughly. Whose budget does that come out of? The school department. So can that $50-something thousand be shifted to pay off this bond?
No.
That $50,000 is going to be saved from the school department. It should be saved. Hang on,
It's a
Chip.
great idea, but
So-
I don't think legally we can do that.
Can we fundraise the entire 2.2 or 2 million, let's say, and not have to take out a bond?
Absolutely.
Perfect. And then the last one is, we're putting away $10,000 for this kitty, right? After 10 years, that's only $100,000. It's going to be $500,000 plus to replace both the track and the field. Am I correct in saying that?
At today's prices.
At today's, both the track and the field, or just the track and or the field? Both. So that means that we're still going to be short $400 grand, meaning that we're going to have to be in front of the committee asking for more money, or
Along the way, we're going to try to create a small business there to take care of itself.
and hopefully that will cover the entire thing. Okay.
Good. Pick up. Promise.
No, you need to answer.
Oh, no, I did answer right along the way. Did everybody see that? Pretty much he answered his own questions and I agree.
My question is, and that'll have to be answered at some other time, about $50-something thousand.
I can answer this now. So
Where's it gonna go?
the funds, as we mentioned before, the way the town is structured, the DPW maintains, schools, we do buildings, we do have a maintenance guy, he does the outside mowing around here. So that part of that $50,000 that is estimated, that currently maintains the mowing and everything, that's actually part of the DPW budget. So the school department, our custodian that we have, still gonna be on staff, still being paid. He's gonna be doing the maintenance of the track and the turf field itself. But the DPW is still going to be mowing and the baseball field and the other areas of the
But we're still saving on materials and everything else, and all that stuff, like fertilizer and all that stuff. Ship that over to the school department from the DPW, give it to you guys, put it into that kitty, so when we come up to that $500,000, we'll have that money.
There will be a savings here because we currently for fertilizing, we have to contract out for that because you need a certain license to do that. And I don't believe somebody at the DPW has it, maybe I'm wrong, but we are contracting out to have fertilization done. So we will not be paying for the fertilization, so there's going to be a savings there. So yeah, there will be an uptick in what the school department is not paying out. So we can put that, as a school committee, we can discuss that, put those funds aside.
I'd like that brought up at a school committee meeting and having that enterprise fund established, guarantee that $10,000 is going in, and whatever you're saving, piggyback that in there, because this money, it's not, you guys just say, oh, we're gonna save the money. This is town government, it's gonna disappear, and you guys need to be accountable for this. Nobody should be accountable for the mismanagement of the old track. Again, this is a corporation, heading the rule. I'm not saying, somebody needs to be accountable. Nobody's saying that it was me, I'm sorry, we'll do better.
Well,
And I'm not saying it's you or it's
I know, I understand that, I appreciate that. But like I said before, we went back to capital improvement numerous times asking for the funds, but the fiscal situation at the time didn't allow for the funds. I can't speak for capital improvement, 2008.
Chip, just how many years do we estimate, because maybe a little attention wasn't given to the track, how many years off its life do you think were lost?
Well, the engineers will tell you, this is the life expectancy of that track. The only difference would have been, it would have been recoded around 2009 or 10.
And maybe now it wouldn't be in disarray and we'd still be able to use it another year or two.
It would have been much cheaper because as it deteriorated, water got underneath it and that cracked the asphalt. That's what's making the uneven surfaces right now.
Okay, so is it fair that we lost maybe 4 years, 5 years life on it overall? 4 or 5 good years?
Yeah, if we had resurfaced it around the time when we had initially asked for it, we probably would be talking, if we were talking about anything, we'd be talking about turf and maybe not the track itself.
New tracks much better quality.
So the question I have, I don't know that anybody can answer here. I mean, this goes much more beyond $26 a year, I think. $26, yes, it's a drop in the bucket. One time to McDonald's, I get that. My kids are 3 and 6, okay? They're gonna get the most benefit out of it. I would say that, yes. But as a father, looking down the road, this is a 15-year loan, okay? On top of a 30-year loan for the schools, right? What do we have in the next 30 years? What are the projects? Is somebody looking at that? I hope we have a long-range planning committee, master committee, looking at our assets. Are any of them here? That's unfortunate. We know 10, 15 years, we need $500,000 new track again. What about this high school? We're still paying on it? There's a facelift. Middle school, facelift. How many more years? Town Hall, East Street School. East Street School was 1990, 91. I was there right after it was remodeled. How many more years do you have left on these? Is it within that 30 years? Where does that impact our debt in the next 30 years? How high that limit is? It's much more than $26 has. Much more than that. We're going to tax our kids out of this town. I'm all for our kids. We want to keep them here. Let's not just look at athletics. I get it. I'm all for it. We need this track. How are we financing this? How are we planning our town finances, our town budgets in the future over these next 30 years?
It ain't just kids using it though. I use it.
Absolutely.
And I'm way out of high school.
Absolutely.
So, all right,
I
thank
want
you,
a nice
Dan.
track in the field.
I promise somebody will get back to Dan and let him know when long-range planning, capital planning, when they meet, we find out, and maybe you want to get on that committee. I think you do well there.
So, if we keep looking at this, we'll never have a track and field.
We'll never do anything.
We'll never do anything because we
All
keep
right,
thinking
I know what you're
about all
saying.
this.
Let's stay on track. And we answered everybody's question? Get it? Stay on track. All right, one more question, then if there's nothing new. Hold on. Ooh. Hold on, Mr. Rosenblum.
I still want to know, is at the town meeting, are they going to have more information to be able to decide what they want to do?
They'll have the question, as much information. We're gonna get them as much information. I think progressively, we're getting more and more information every day, and we should have more than we have today to share with them. Who over here, Mr. Wiley or Mr. Wiley first? Hold on, Mr.
Just a quick thing. It seems like everyone's harping on the previous maintenance plan. It seems, I mean, unless I'm missing something, that you tried to get it resurfaced. It was a money issue. It wasn't neglect. It wasn't people sitting in the office just having a coffee and donuts and saying, ah, screw the field. It was the maintenance time over a 10-year plan. It's like, okay, we need to now do the maintenance, and the money wasn't there. And I understand what everyone's saying, okay, what are you gonna do in the future? But one of the charts that's not up there, and I was just asking Mr. Brillo, it said naming rights for the field. It just said $750,000. So I said, okay, let's hypothetically, you get United Bank to say, we're gonna name the field. What happens to $750,000? Does it go towards the potential new replacing of the field and the track in 10 or 15 years? And he said yes. So that, I think that answers a lot of the questions right there. They're trying. I don't know if we're gonna get someone to name it, but everyone's asking, what are you guys doing for fundraising? And I just saw all those charts going, well, damn, I don't have $750,000, but I might go down to the bottom, which is the $1,000 one for 3 years, and I don't know, you know, what they name here, but it also said there was a $500,000 one, so all that money is gonna go towards a new track in the 10 or 15 years.
Thanks, sir. For 75, we'll put your name on the scoreboard. Mr. Rosenblum, my colleague.
Thank you, Tony. Bill Rosenblum. I am also a Board of Selectmen member, and my daughter has been waiting for 10 minutes, so she's going to kill me. I voted yes on putting this to the ballot, and that's exactly why I voted yes, is to put it to the ballot, because by putting it to the ballot under our current form of government, what I'm doing is allowing everybody to make an educated decision. It's not to say no to one side and yes to the other. So I believe that the way I look at it is if we're going to the ballot, we have to go to town meeting, the project will vet itself. And this form is good for education, whether you're for or against it. And again, for me, voting yes isn't because of personal belief, it's because I believe that people that are not for it and people that are for it should have a voice, because that's our current form of government. And yes, obviously, like anybody else, tax implication, yes. And as everybody said, $26. If my home value doubled, it's going to be $50. I get that, and I know, but in the same sense, to say to tax everybody $250, you have to understand that there's people that are seniors that are single living seniors in their own places that you ask them to do $250, there's no chance of doing that. Just to clarify why I voted yes is to put it to the ballot and let all of you have a say, because that's right now, for this question, that's how our form of government works. For other things that everybody and everyone has said, other options of other things that go on in town, is there maybe change in government for that? Possibly. But for this, you all have a say. You can do it at the ballot, and you can do it at town, and you can go to your town meeting members. There's 15 open slots too, so town meeting isn't even full. Okay? So that's all I had to say. It's all because I wanted you all to have a say. I gotta go get my kid.
Okay, anybody else something new to share? Yes.
Okay, real quick, guys. When I was talking about you guys fundraising, the reason I say that is because that's on us as parents. Our answer to everything is usually just, what's it gonna cost? Let me just write you a check, because it's easier than volunteering. The fact is that my son is in high school band. When I go to the meetings, there are 7 parents there on a good night. When I have been to the elementary school PTO meetings, there have been like 4 out of all of the elementary kids, 4 parents. 4 parents out of all of the elementary kids at the PTO meetings. If we want them to be involved, we have to be involved more than just throwing a check at stuff.
Thank you. Okay, folks, we're good? Please watch the town hall. Our meetings are open to the public, and get a hold of us anywhere, anytime. Thank you.